I just thank God, amen, for this time of healing. I thank him because I don't know about you, but I need this too. Come on, I need this too. I need to talk about it. I need to share, and I need someone to say, I am with you, 100%. I am with you with this. Are we ready for our song?
Yes.
Amen. All right. Let's receive Pastor Brandon Rings at this time.
Come on, did we enjoy the play? Come on, did we enjoy the skit? Let's put our hands together and appreciate them. I mean, it's time to heal. I said it's time to heal. Let's start that. Bring it up, bring it up. Bring it up. Come on, bring it up, bring it up. That's it, bring it up. A little bit more. That's it, bring it up just a little bit. Put your hands on your mind. Think about your mind. The Creator, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Bring it up, just a little bit more. It's time to heal. Bring it up now. Yes, time to heal. From pain to purpose. Come on, bring it up just a little bit for me. I know I got some dancers in the room, some praisers, some hand raisers. Those who don't mind magnifying the King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. But we're here today because it's time to heal. Come on. Time to heal. From pain. Bring it up just a little bit. For purpose. You hear a little more. Yes. Come on. Yes. It's a time to heal. Come on. Heal. From pain. Yes. The purpose is a healing time. It's a healing time. Time to heal. Because our word lets us know that this is the day. Because it's time to heal. Looking for the healing, the revealing. He's a teacher, a soul reacher, an understanding. There's a commanding. Time to heal. Yes. I know there's some dancers. Time to release the fear. Stop listening to what you hear. What they say doesn't mean anything to us. We understand his voice. There is a voice that speaks louder. Louder than Philadelphia. Louder than there's a voice that's louder. Louder than the hatred. It's a time to heal. Yes. Time to move with purpose. Yes. On purpose. You got to know the time to heal. To the county worker, to the line teacher, to the soul reacher, to the gospel preacher. We got to talk about it healing. It's time to heal, to reveal. There's a king of kings. Time to heal and reveal. There's a teaching we come from. You know where you come from. Yes, you know where you come from. Mama prayed for you. Come on, Mama prayed for you. Daddy prayed for you. The preacher prayed for you. He said, get my people who are over my name, will humble themselves, begin to pray, seek my face, and from the wicked ways, and I will heal the land. Come on, we want him to heal the land. Holy God, and heal the land. We want him to heal the land. Help me heal. You are a worker. You've been saved. him a praise to the name of God.
Don't give any funny ideas. I've already asked him to be the manager. We're going to record this, right? She wrote 2 songs. Woo! Time to Heal, Pain to Purpose. Okay. So I wanted to acknowledge the fact that in Alameda County, we do have an African American steering committee. Our sole purpose is to ensure that services are fair and equitable. We said that earlier, right? In order to do so, we needed targeted efforts. So I want everyone from the African American Steering Committee for Health and Wellness to stand up. All the members. Amen.
African Center Psychology.
Daisy Olson, Resilient Wellness.
James Thompson, East Bay Agency for Children.
And our facilitator.
Kevin Washington.
Forget anything I had forgotten to do that. So we wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity. We had a meeting with Supervisor Keith Carson, and he shared with us he was still getting concerns from individuals in the community about how they would voice their concerns. When someone asks you, someone's griping about something, someone wants something done differently, then it's your job to say, well, there is an African American Steering Committee for Health and Wellness that's connected to and wants to hear from you. We're also later in the day going to have some advocates. Wanda Johnson, you should be familiar with her. She's Oscar Grant's mom. She's going to come later along with other panelists and talk about how she took her pain and moved it to purpose, to the point to where she's on a flight back from the DNC, Democratic National Convention, because she didn't stay stuck in a place of hurt and pain. She instead went forth and made her son's name do just what the skit suggested, empower it. Yes. Right? Yes. With the Oscar Grant Foundation. Yes. So she'll share what she's doing with that. And then there's other individuals. We know how important it is, especially in the African American community, to make sure that when someone's life is taken, even if it's by someone from their own community, that the others understand. Because there's no such thing as black on black crime. Amen. No such thing. So we need to educate each other about the fact that when you hear the headlines, the media sometimes gives poor representation for what's really going on. I am an individual who lost my young cousin to another individual who looked just like him, who shot and killed him when he tapped his car. I was disappointed when I picked up the newspaper and I read that Charles Butler Jr. so far no known gang or drug affiliation. He never had any. He just graduated from the Merchant Marine. So I was bothered by the fact that the negative messaging was put out by him. He was fighting for his life. Our family knew he likely would not make it. And so when we came as a family and we said, you know, let's donate his organs. Yeah. And my sister had a friend who happened to be a white gentleman who was having kidney failure, who probably wasn't going to live for very long. And he lives on because of the foundation too, because we took the pain into purpose. And because he graduated from the Merchant Marine program, I knew there were so many other African American men who would like the opportunity to make $30, $35, and women too, who would like the men to make $30, $35 an hour. And so I started a scholarship fund, the Charles Butler Scholarship Fund, to support young men from Oakland for that type of training. So we take our power back when we correct the media about what really truly is happening. And that's what today is about. So those that we're hearing today are in our community. We call them testimonies. It's an evidence-based practice, and it's called sharing your story. But where did it start? In the church, right? With testimonies. Because we know if someone shares some information, then we can use that information and know that we too can get through it.
I grew up in Hayward. I grew up in South Hayward. And when I came to Hayward, I didn't speak English. I was held back because I didn't speak English. I grew up in a single-parent family home where my mom was the leader of the home, and she didn't speak English. I grew up in a place where she would go to the doctors, and I had to find out information about my mom that I should not know. That is called a health disparity. That is being marginalized.
That's right.
My mom was the janitor of La Familia 33 years ago, and now I'm the CEO. Black minds matter. Brown minds matter. In the last 2 years, I've grown La Familia by about $6 to $7 million. Now, if the community didn't invest in me, that wouldn't have happened. I'm a product of the community. I'm a product of what happened. I've been profiled by cops, and I'm not trying to hate on cops, but I have. I can tell you other things that have happened by cops to me. Now, when I grew up in Hayward, it was really mixed. I had my homeboy Rob from 73rd and Lockwood that moved to Hayward because that's the way it was. I had my boy Will who moved from Hunters Point to Hayward because that's the way it was. We grew up in a real mixed situation. Now, my mom still doesn't speak English to this day, but she knows Will, or as we call him Boo. There's been a lot of hurt in our communities. There's been a lot of hurt in our black communities, in all of the communities that we have. Amen. If you look at Alameda County, if you look at behavioral health, there's about 24,000 consumers in Alameda County, of which about 20,000 are adults and about 4,000 are youth. And although I won't give you the exact numbers, I'm sure there are high representations of African Americans where they need healing, where they need love and they need support. I saw my friend get shot and killed in front of me in 1999. Shot in the chest, and I was profiled again. Now, if I didn't have access to an organization like this, I wouldn't be in my position. But luckily I do. Luckily we do. When I saw him get shot, I didn't think he was going to die that night. It was May 8th, it was Mother's Day, and we never found out what happened, meaning who killed him. But every day I'm motivated by that because I know that if we can really, really push ahead and push through the pain, something positive can happen. And that's why every day I'm motivated to bring in more programming, to do more for the community. Because it's not enough to have a CEO, and I'm saying this with all due respect, to hire peppers of Black and Latino staff to meet culture competency. You need leaders at the top that are Latino, that are Black, that are making the decisions. Because guess what? I have lived experience. And it's real talk. It's a lot of lived experience. I have a lot of pain that I don't share every day, but I translate it in other ways.
Amen. Amen.
Good.
And when you do that, and when you create community transformation, and you really create upward mobility for folks that have really had the lived experience, that's community transformation. That is healing, because they should be in those positions of power. They should be making the change. I haven't seen my father since I was 5. When I came to Hayward, it was because my mom and dad got a divorce. And there wasn't paperwork involved. One day he came home. One night I stayed at LAX. That night we flew to Santa Clara. I never saw him again. The last time I saw my mother and my father engaged was because he hit her and knocked her down. It was due to alcoholism, and it was due to PTSD. I know that if I walked in the neighborhood that I grew up in, I can't walk around in a tank top. Guess why? Because I'm all tatted up. And nobody knows that about me.
All right.
But I know that in my mind, if I walk down the street in a tank top, and if I grew up still in the same neighborhood, I am Latino, I come from a single parent neighborhood, from a single parent family, and I still have some of the same barriers that I had when I was a kid.
All right.
That's right.
That is lived experience.
Yes, it is.
Okay? So that said, we have allies, we have friends, we have those connections, but we have to be strategic about how those partnerships are put in place. We have to be strategic about how we move forward. Because when we talk about consumers and we talk about folks who need mental health, there's a lot of us out there.
Yes.
Now, I have the push that we've had to drive for unaccompanied young folks. And at first it wasn't popular because it didn't pay. But I do have to thank someone that I see out here from behavioral health named Jeff Bracknell. Thank you, Jeff. Because if it wasn't for Jeff, we would not have been able to push that issue when folks didn't pay for unaccompanied youth, when folks didn't pay for folks that were undocumented. Now everybody wants to do it because it pays. Because as of May 16th, now it's all good. You know. And La Familia, an agency that works with Latino folks, was one of the first agencies to push that issue. Because we need that support. We need to provide that. Why? Because guess what's happening? When they're 18, when they're 19, they're ending up in positions where they're either connected to meth, or they're connected to alcoholism, or they're connected to some sort of a drug. And we need to provide that support now. It's cost effective. Let me end with this. I want to thank Gigi Crowder. I see some other friends here that invited me to speak today. Because for me, anytime I get the opportunity to speak like this, I'm really touched and I'm really moved. I understand the pain. I've been there. I live it every day. I walk through the embarrassment of growing up on government cheese, growing up on Section 8, having somebody come to my house once a year to make sure the house was up to par, just so I can keep getting to Section 8. I know what that means. I've been there. I didn't go to a private school. I didn't go anywhere to get to my position. I barely made it through high school, but guess what? I made it through college. I want you to stay motivated.
Yes.
And I want you to make sure that you push forward because it's tireless work. It's not something that happens tomorrow. It's not something that happens next year. It's work that continues. And I want you to remain motivated. Let that pain fuel you, but let it fuel you in a positive way. Black minds matter. Brown minds matter. Thank you.
Barnes, who came to our very first kickoff for the African American Utilization Study and wrote books about raising African American young men, is going to be on the panel as well. Thanks for stepping up. And you guys are going to have a casual conversation, right, Pastor Brandon?
Yes.
If you met on BART and you exchanged information about what you do in life, what would you be talking about?
All right, I'm going to ask Chief Rainey. There's some mics right by you all. You all can have your own mic. I'm going to ask Chief Rainey to open this conversation. The question was, if we met on BART, the four of us as black men, what would that conversation somewhat sound like? Go ahead, Chief.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Both pleasure and honor for me to be here. Pastor, thank you for inviting me. Before I open up, as I always do, first giving honor and glory to God. All things are possible.
That's right, man.
I wouldn't be here without it. So if I met these three other brothers on the BART, I'm talking about, you know, where I'm from, my humble beginnings. From the south side of Chicago. Growing up in the projects, all odds against me. Single mom home, gangs, drugs, everything that we see today. But I had great mentors in my life. And that's the one thing that I can say that my mom knew and understood, that she can't raise a boy and teach a boy how to be a man. Right. Men are important. And so one of my mentors told me, after he found out that I wanted to be a police officer ever since I was in the 7th grade, so I'm living my dream. That's why what was talked about really resonated, that imagery is very, very important. We live behind a police station. We used to watch police officers go to and from work. And one of my mentors told me, if you really, really want to be a police officer because you want our community to be better, he told me you need to go to school and get a degree and become a police chief. And be that change that you talk about. And so, as I've gone and traveled through life, I've been black all my life and I haven't forgotten that. I'm a good brother, Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated. I don't know if there's any other good brothers in the place. My middle daughter who goes to Howard University. Hate you.
You know.
And, you know, and I have 2 other daughters that one goes to school down in Southern California, and then my youngest one's going to graduate, and she's the smart one out of the family. She has her pick of wherever she wants to go to school.
All right. All right. Notice now, the conversation, we talk about family.
Yes.
Come on, family.
Yeah.
That's usually the beginning where we start. Dr. Nobles, I'm going to approach it to you a different way. I was on BART. I'll give you a real experience here, if you give him the mic. I was on BART, and I was on my way to San Francisco. I do a Bible study over there every Wednesday. Packed BART car. It was packed. And there was a group of folks heading over to the Giants game. 3 African-American young men come on. They get on the train. And one of them sits by a gentleman, and immediately he's upset about their music. You know, because now, you know, you can play your phone with the music playing. And they came in, so immediately he addresses his music. The young man gets up, and there's a gentleman sitting there. He's been riding on BART a while. He has a bottle of hot sauce on his seat. The young man goes over, gets the bottle. Him and the other gentleman, they get into an exchange. This is all on BART. I'm sitting there praying. He has the bottle of hot sauce in his hand. He gets upset. Him and the other gentleman, they get into a verbal. Immediately he throws it down and breaks the bottle on BART. Everyone else moves away from him. As soon as the train stops, they get off the train. We've already contacted the BART police. They're on the way. Brother Nobles, that young man, what do you say to him? Why is he acting out like that? What do you say to him?
You have absolutely asked the wrong person.
Come on, hold it. If you hold the mic up, they need to hear you.
I said, you have absolutely asked the wrong person, and I've been around enough to know that if you don't get the question you want to answer the question you're going to get. And so I want to do a couple of things.
All right.
One is that I think I would have first dealt with the person who was concerned with the music before the young man interceded on his way.
Right.
So I think I have a skill set.
Yes.
And I would have given the metaphorical hot sauce to the person who was bothering this young man because the young man had music and he was like,
yes.
Then I want to take an opportunity to help the young man to be able to recognize that there's something called code switching, and depending upon where you are, you do certain kinds of things. But also I would say, I bet that chief of BART, police chief of BART, that white MF. Because see, I don't know, it's him.
Right.
So I walk around in the world thinking that everybody that has authority is a white person.
All right.
And so I'm now mad at the white person who directs BART, who allows this kind of issue to happen. So it becomes a complex kind of moment here.
Yes.
Because one, as an elder, I have to work with the young man who hasn't been given the kind of strategies to deal with a hostile and vulgar environment when it comes to being African in the world. So I have to work with him. But I also have to work with my own stuff. And my own stuff is to say, what's wrong with these white folk who are wrecked and barked? And now he and I are sitting together, and I'm talking about, my brother was a police officer, and I kind of have no problem with police officers. But that white bark chief of police, that MF, I'm sitting with him.
Gotcha.
And so I'm sitting with him.
Yeah, you don't even know who you're talking
Don't
to.
even know who I'm talking to.
Yes.
And then when I realized that he is a cop, I got to put my brother in the conversation. Because the only thing that makes cops good for me is that they're in my family.
All right.
Now hear this. The police are in our families.
All right.
That's right.
And that while we are taught in this country to put black folk against white folks, and the police people are the army of the white folks, we have to recognize that there are responsibilities and roles to be played in a human society. One of them is policing. And the policing sometimes looks at us. So I was thinking as I was listening to my student.
And you got 1 minute. You got 1 minute left.
And I was thinking that if you think about, you can visualize a 3-leg stool. That if you break one of those legs, the stool doesn't balance itself, has no sturdy. Well, the 3-leg stool I want us to consider is that our young people are being harmed, being murdered. That's one leg. Our families who are absolutely shattered by that trauma and tragedy is the second leg. But also the perpetrators of that crime is the third leg. And it's just as damaged.
Yes.
So how do we work with understanding and reclaiming our humanity and having a human conversation? And I'm going to start with this. I was taught when I was a child at church is that a Jewish carpenter went into Africa called Egypt and became the Christ. A Jewish carpenter went into Africa and became the Christ. The source, the healing has to be done by identifying the source of the pain. And the source of the pain, it seems to me, is the confusion in our consciousness of who we are. So I would start with that and suggest that we got to look at our consciousness as divine human beings and to recognize that divinity in all the legs of the stool.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Thank you. Pastor Barnes, as we're having a conversation, what do you do and say to that mom? She shows up on Sunday. Her son has been killed. What do you say?
Well, Pastor Brandon, and to all of the other panels and everyone that's here today, it's ironic you should say that. It's because one of my members just recently, her son was in a car with someone that got killed. And I have to face her tonight in Bible class. And what I would say to her is that, listen, sometimes you could be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then there are times that we have to raise our children in the right way. Number one, no teenager ought to be out 3 o'clock in the morning.
Amen.
I said you shouldn't be out 3 o'clock in the morning. There's some parenting that needs to be done. There's some parenting. You have to catch those kids while they're young. One of the points that we make in our book is that you got to be there. Ants, rats, and roaches can make a baby, but it takes a real father to stay there to handle the baby. And I want to help that lady that she would be comfortable and understand that there's something that happened at the beginning that you should have been there and you or somebody wasn't there. Because let me tell you something. If anybody's going to get help, if you ever see a turtle on the top of a fence, know that somebody helped them get there. And it's the same thing with all of us. We all need help. But I have this thing that we have, Pastor Brandon, about it's a man thing. And it's a man thing because the brothers have to come back and take their responsibility. They have to come back. And I will share with this mother, that you don't just sleep around and hang out with this one or that one. Here it is, your son. He needs a father. And whether that's going to be a surrogate father, stepfather, or the real father. You see, to me, it doesn't make sense for a father to have babies all over the place. I hope I'm not talking to anybody, but I'm talking about what I'm talking about. They have babies all over the place and you're not taking care of none of them. Amen. And that's the stand that we're doing. And we got some things coming up, Pastor. Thank you for this opportunity. Is that we got some things coming up, even in our ministry, is that teaching men how to be the men. You know what the problem is? Nobody never taught them what a man is. Nobody took the time out to teach a man what a real man is. A real man is not one that just make babies. A real man take care of his baby.
Dr. Nobles, he asked us on the conversation, back during the African time, what was just, and very quickly, their process of teaching the young men. Help us.
You always say very quickly. I don't know why you say very quickly to me.
Because we're on a time schedule. We're on a time schedule. We're on a time schedule. I want to hear from everyone.
Let me point out real quickly that as human beings come to the world, and as African thought, as human beings come to the world, they come through their mother's sacred womb. And so the first lesson they learn is that mother is sacred. All right? And then as they grow, the community knows there's a time when these young men need to be taken off away from that sacred mother. There's a time when these young girls be taken off away from the sacred their fathers, and to learn very specific lessons on what it means to be a man. And the lesson that they learn is that your manhood means that you are the source of life and you are the protector of life. And so everything you do is because of what am I stimulating in life. Everything I do has to be in terms of what is the protection that I am providing. So when I walk the streets as a young black man and I stand with my left foot forward and lean, I am radiating an energy that goes way back to the beginning of time in ancient Egypt when our ancestors designed the first image of a man, standing with his left foot forward, stamping out the evil snake eye. So my nature is to stamp out evil. I didn't learn that, but I can't learn that if we as brothers don't go somewhere with older men and they teach us that specifically.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Nobles. Thank you. I want to ask the chief, and because today is about healing. Today it's about healing. It's about healing. We know there's a lot of issues, but right now it's about healing. Chief, with your officers there at BART, and we know all that's going on, share with us what you're sharing with them as we look at all the situations and different things that's happening in our country. How are you dealing with your officers?
I have been to Washington, D.C. twice this month about this issue that has been occurring across the country. I just got back this weekend from the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives 40th National Conference, and where we're speaking about this issue, and where, what most people don't know, community policing was born. And it's born from a place where our philosophy towards it is what Sir Robert Peel says: the people are the police and the police are the people. And so what I try to remind my personnel when you go out there, what community policing is working with the community to identify the issues that the community says that they want to address. And the reason that most law enforcement organizations come up short is because they fail to understand, accept, or respect the diversity of all the communities that we serve. It's easy to go into communities that pat us on the back where there's no problems, they agree with everything, but it's hard to go into the lion's den like Daniel and put yourself in harm's way. Put yourself up to be criticized and answer the hard questions. My personnel, I remind them they're equipped. They've been trained on implicit bias, racial profiling, bias-based policing, tactical communication, de-escalation. When somebody starts to act out, it may be not because what we're contacting them for, but when you go against somebody, you contact somebody and they feel disrespected, and all they have is their dignity because of circumstances that they don't control. okay? At that point, if that person feels that you are trying to strip them of their dignity, that situation is going to escalate very, very, very quickly. So I stress to them, remember your training. Remember our policies, our procedures, what we expect. And overwhelmingly, that all our communities support us. We want the same thing. We want policing in the black, brown, and white communities. What they want, though, what everybody wants, is good policing.
That's right. Let me thank you. Let me ask you this question, Chief, because we talked about it in our point, man. And those that have questions, get ready. You'll be able to line up and ask your question. I'm going to move right into Q&A because I want you to have some time to answer some questions. What would you say, Chief, regarding, I know a lot of the problem is a lot of our young people have not been educated in how to respond to the police, how to act. I know how I was raised. I know how Dr. Nobles was raised, Pastor Barnes was raised. But we're in a day and hour when now, first of all, the person you're confronting already is full of anger. You missed the skit that we had, but one of the young ladies on the stage was waiting to blow up. She sat there patiently, but when it was her time, she blew up. What do you say to our young people, and has it been considered any type of conference that I feel should be hosted by Law and Order or by the policing departments to bring some young people in and begin to talk to them and allow them to understand there's a way to talk to everybody? And I believe personally in that teaching, not only would the young person learn, but the officer might learn. So if you can share with us what is being done or what can be done. So I believe our young people just have a lack of knowledge. The word says my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. How can we really instruct our young people that, hey, you all aren't the bad guy, but that's what they feel? Help us.
And it goes back to the community policing philosophy. It's incumbent upon us in law enforcement to go out to where people are meeting and meet them before there's an incident so they know that we are people as well. And everybody expects law enforcement to behave and perform perfectly. And I'm here to tell you that we are very, very frail, flawed human beings, and we are from the community, and we make mistakes. And so as we build these bridges and build these alliances, all of this stuff is about relationships. One of the programs that we have in Noble is called The Law and You, where we would bring this program that talks to young people about their rights. So when they're stopped or contacted by the police, what they can expect, how a police officer should or should not behave. And you're not going to get justice right there in a confrontation with a police officer if they disrespect you or if they're behaving wrongfully. The Law and You program will teach you how to get through that situation and how to come back with an adult surrogate to file a complaint against an officer that has behaved improperly, and that officer will be taken care of and handled.
Thank you.
Thank you. I humbly would like to ask us to consider something. We've already established that we're in a time of great confusion, that we don't know who we are as people, that we don't know what our respective duties are as adult folks, whether we are men or women, and that our families are deconstructed. But we already know that. So I guess in my heart, I hope on a day of healing that when we are talking about someone losing their child, that we don't forget that when we talk about what already has happened, a father not being present or the boundaries of being home at night hasn't been established, that we don't just come with judgment and rules about what's wrong in the first place. We have to embrace the problem. That's really important. it's very hurtful to me. I know a lot of strong single women who get blamed for the man who wasn't there. You know, you can grow from the time you're young and you have a child and are alone. And some of them stay alone because they know that they don't want to go through that experience again of bringing somebody who's incomplete as a father, as a man into their life. So as a young woman, humbly, no children, no husband, I want to just make sure that I acknowledge that. That's really important, just the same as I want to acknowledge, you know, learning how to be a man, learning how to be a woman, learning how to comply with police. To me, sometimes we get a little too caught up in respectability. We should comply with our elders, and we should carry ourselves as young men and young women. And we are so lucky that there are people who are mentoring us of how to be, especially in an African way. That's something that I feel like as young people, that's why we are angry. We're angry because everybody says, act right, stand up straight, do this, do that. But then you have it coming from a more Eurocentric view. And then when you hear it from the Afrocentric view, there's all these extra rules that we're learning all of a sudden. So now I've grown up in a world of disarray, and now I have all these rules. Okay, I'm standing up straight. Okay, chin's up. Okay, I'm not looking at that man. Okay, I'm studying in school. Okay, I'm going to work every day. And my brothers and sisters are still getting killed when they comply to police. They're still getting left when they're trying to be a good woman and, you know, do all the follow proper rules, because there are a lot more leniencies in the society for men or for white people, or just for those who have a little more power. So I would like us to just please consider that when I hear that that's the answer that you would have, I understand that there's a time limit and I'm even breaking it, that broke my heart, and I came here for healing.
Go ahead, yes.
In my role as the ethnic services manager for behavioral health care services, I know that I have to sit in a room and be open to hear things that might not be what is important to me, but it is for some individuals. So one of the things that always happens when we come together as a community is we get so sensitive when something has been said that doesn't speak in our home. And I just want us for today to understand that we came here to talk about pain for all individuals. Sometimes it's hard to talk about it without expressing personal pain, but we're not going to meet the needs of everybody here today. It's just almost impossible to do. What we're going to try and do is honor the fact that we've asked individuals to come to share with a solutions-focused approach. That is the solution for some individuals. I'm a single parent myself. Okay, I turned to the faith community for support when I needed it. That's right. And I went to the church I went to because they had a lot of male presence. And that's what I knew I needed for my son. When looking for a husband, because my standards are way high. But I just want the remaining individuals to ask questions of the panelists. As much as I respect the young woman, I work with her, I know her heart, I know her spirit, I hope her to, you know, come with me in the county. I'm always looking for people because you're just like I was. But for today, just recognize we're not gonna, we're so diverse in our views and our lens, okay? All right. Question for the panel. Thanks.
My question for the panel is, same situation. I do take the advice that you gave. I'm a single mother. I raised a young man. I raised him in church. I reached out for mentors and all that other good stuff, but the reality is in my life that both in the church and in the streets and in the neighborhoods, the men that I placed in my son's life did not turn out to be the mentors that they need to be in all areas across the board. So what I am asking, my question is, that is, and that's to anybody, that's wonderful in an ideal situation, but in a lot of people's reality, what other steps or what other measures do you suggest? Because to me it sounded like you suggested that the mother did not do what she was supposed to do to raise a son. And I have done all of those things. But at the same time, in our African American community, in a lot, not all, churches, all kind of stuff going on in that.
We got it.
Keep it real. So
okay.
I just want to know kind of what is some other suggestions that you would make to other mothers coming along.
Okay. Pastor Barnes, go ahead. It's directed to you.
Yes. What I would suggest is this. I too, for your information, grew up, give you a little history, on welfare, 17 years. My father died, I was 2 years old. My mother had 13 children. Thank God for number 13. I was the baby. So I grew up, and what I had to find was other men that were doing things that I could kind of take on. And my brothers that came out, my older brothers, they were almost like my father. But when a child is growing up, I know what that is like for a child to grow up and it's just a single mom. And what I say to the single mom is continue to love that child. Continue to hug that child. Continue to tell that child that it's going to happen. There's nothing that you cannot be. What I suggest is total encouragement because that's what my mom did as well. And sometimes you're not going to find what you want in some of the programs, but it's just like a mechanic. Just because one mechanic didn't fix your car doesn't mean that the other one won't. Just because one church wasn't the right one doesn't mean that the other church don't have what it's qualified to be for you. Don't stop trying to find that. And like I said, I think my mom did a pretty good job. Yes. Welfare, somebody talked about that cheese. That cheese, I was starting to shout over there when we started talking about that cheese. That's the best cheese in the world.
All right, thank you, Dr. Thank you. Next question, sir. Please, just a direct question. Is it on? Yes, sir.
I want to make this short and sweet. Questions to the chief and also Dr. Knowles. Dr. Knowles first, I want to know, why don't we have manhood training with the young? That's what we need. We need manhood training. We need to start a cycle of training. For the chief, I want to say, when are you going to fix the cameras on the bar so that we can see when some harm is being done to people on the bar?
I think that why do we have manhood training? Yes. Because we choose not to. That's it. We advocate our responsibility. That each and every one of us who is a man, meaning 12 years old, can be taught to make sure that he passes on to the 9-year-old, and the 17-year-old pass on to the 12-year-old, and the 21-year-old pass on to the 17-year-old. It is our responsibility to see that our development as human beings is a progression, and that every level is responsibility for the level behind them. So I think that's what we need to do. We just simply say to do it. And I also want to point out, your question is an opportunity to point out, don't allow ourselves to slip into that this is a personal problem for me. That something I did as a mother that caused my child to get hurt, or something I did as a father that caused my wife not to like me. Don't consider these things as personal problems. There's a systemic cancer in our society. And that systemic cancer really needs to be addressed. And it needs to be addressed because while all the things that the chief has said about doing for the people who work for them are good, the fact of it is we've never unwrapped the scab of what do white people really think about black people. And so when I passed the exam to get hired at the bar, when I passed the exam to get hired at the Oakland Police Department, when I passed the exam to become a teacher, I don't ask the question, what do you really think and feel about another human being? Because we don't understand that we have lost our sense of humanity, then all the programs we create will be band-aids on the scab, and the real problem is that we're suffering from cancer. So I think we have to do, and I would invite the chief to consider that there's a body of folk who spent the last 35 years, 40 years as black psychologists working with understanding human functioning. And maybe you could partner with those folks to figure out how do we do assessment before I hire this folk who just got out of the Marines and just got out of the all he knows dudes they kill. And I'm surprised that he's killed folk. He was trained to do that. That's systemic. So you see, so I think we should begin to talk about, at some point in time, how do we deal with the systemic, vulgar cancer that is America? Because it's not enough to say, I'm going to teach my child how to humble himself but not lose his dignity when he's in front of a police officer. The fact of the matter, he can never teach his child his humanity. I got to change the police officer and not give him a strategy for looking down and looking over. We got to really work on, at some point, and it's going to happen here. Right. I hope that we have a series of these conversations as family and community, because one thing that I love about I'm stopping. Martin Luther King, is that he always addressed us as my beloved community. And when you break down beloved community, it means be in love with unity.
Pass me not, oh gentle Savior.